I wanted to start the webinar today talking about a challenge, and it's not just any challenge, but it's a challenge that organizations face, and the challenges that we organizations face in the world and why we exist. There are organizations who tackle the challenges of environment, health, or education. This could be anything else as well, poverty, but a lot of organizations would have a higher challenge why they work, why they exist. And all these organizations underpin and are there to help find a cure for those challenges. If we then look at organizations and how those organizations are broken down into strategies, processes, and people, and procedures, policies, and so forth. Now, underneath all those processes and people and strategies, what drives and what keeps all those managed are software applications. And I do very much challenge you to think and think of any organization who tackles these bigger challenges and use various different processes and strategies, but not only those are enough, but a lot of those are underpinned by software applications, which may be a lot of those may be delivered in-house, and typically also drive most of the value that the organizations create. And that value that the organization creates then to help larger challenges such as health or education. We're at Tasktop. I want to share a couple of stories of some of our customers. You might have similar stories. So one of our customers has got 20,000 IT staff. They had very much that challenge of transformations. They had all these various applications, 150 Jira servers across the organization. Another bank as well had a very fragmented tool chain. They also had difficulties in scaling those operations. Going to a different sector, in the automotive sector, a customer who's got 4,000 IT staff. Again, lots of software applications. So like in any other industry, banking, finance, automotive, manufacturing, all of those, if you think of the purpose, what they want to deliver as a company, might be wanting to get a person from A to B, or it might be helping that person do their banking better or anything else. But all those organizations will have ultimately a set of applications running in the background, so that all the operations can work smoothly. The next one I really want you to think about is, if you take a moment to think about your organization, what is your organization's challenge? What are those underpinning applications? What are those underpinning processes? And maybe there's a couple of challenges with the different tool sets. Maybe they don't work quite as expected. Maybe they're not quite integrated. Maybe there's not that communication flow between those tool sets. And so all the resources, all the people, all the strategies that have been put in place, those won't work as well as they could because the software applications underneath don't work as well as they could. Another example, you get the slides later on, is putting that challenge not only to talk about the holistic approach of these issues, but what's the kind of dollar amount that you would feel the impact of when you have that fragmented tool chain. We then get to the bottom of this webinar, and looking at this challenge, looking at the fragmentation, looking to solve that with software. As we all know, there's a lot of pressure, especially when a lot of organizations are moving from a waterfall approach into Agile. You then also, going up the maturity scale, you want to focus on your value stream approach as well. You want to look at how can we deliver a better value in our organization? Who are our customer? How does a customer see the value of the organization? How can we make that more lean? How can we make it continually improve that process? Depending on whether you've heard the term or not, value stream integration really captures everything where you focus on the value of the business, the core essence of the business. What you want to do is you want to make that value stream visible. So you want to make sure that everyone involved in the organization understands what the decisions are being made, what the applications and other resources underpin those value streams. What is my role within the value stream? How can I make the process better? An example of the various different roles which are involved within this value stream. Now, if you think of software application, you need everything from project managers, testers, developers, also service desk managers, business analysts, operations. One screenshot of a drill down on the various different artifacts, the various different items that flow between these people. And when you think of the increased data flow and the type of information, and also how they flow from one tool to another, there's going to be a lot of challenges. But when there is a challenge, there's also an opportunity. One of the biggest challenges really in software applications in the test is testing, and we're delighted to have our partner Tricentis join the presentation. Gernot Brandl will be following me shortly and showing a demonstration of the capability. Another big thing when you're looking at software applications is the communication. So how can we communicate that we are delivering the best possible software application, but communicating within all those steps? So communicating between business analysts, between project managers, between testers, developers, and again back and forth. And that might be quite an agile communication chain. So it's not necessarily going from one place to another and then kind of that process going from start to finish, but there might be a lot of feedback and should be a lot of feedback. So we know that once you've tested something or you create a requirement, developed it and tested, making sure that that feedback then goes back to developers if there's any issues. And that's really what captures DevOps, or the framework of DevOps captures this. And really when you break that software applications down, what underpins a lot of that, which again then underpins the organizations, the running of the organizations, is automated software testing. And why do I say automated? If you think of the scale of operations, the scale of applications that you're required to run an organization smoothly, you do want to automate a lot of that testing and do that in a continuous but also in an integrated way.
Thank you so much, Tuuli. So hello and welcome everybody. My name is Gernot Brandl, and what I want to show you is a brief story about software development in this agile times and this DevOps times. So personally, I just want to add at the beginning of that story that Agile and DevOps has changed so much, not only in the world of software development, but specifically in software companies like Tricentis. So I was really involved very closely in that transformation, and there was a lot of things that changed from this traditional approach we had the years before. So, but I don't want to elaborate too much about that. So I want to start with the story. So this is an application we always use for demoing. It is a nice small application which is for demoing purposes. So you can create some insurance quotes. So we have an artificial insurance company, and there is an insurance agent that wants to sell some insurance plans with that application. So this application creates the quotes. So when the development team, which develops that application, starts their work, it usually uses some kind of Agile planning tool. So an Agile planning tool, for today I chose the CI Agile Central, which is one of many ALM planning tools. Other popular options would be Jira or something like that, or Polarian. There are a lot out there, and this is the problem where it comes to all those tools. All those tools have to work together somehow, because Tricentis is providing a testing tool. This is how it looks like. I'll come back to that later. Usually I do that demo I'm doing now with Jira, but I had to switch my demo to CI Agile Central due to technical difficulties, but it worked out really nice because integration works the same way with all those tools. So let's just jump into the story, I would say. So let's say the company wants to have additional functionality. So the team working on that application wants to create an option for creating motorcycle quotes here. So usually you start in some kind of requirements management tool, or Agile organizations start more in the area of an Agile planning tool. So here we have already some user stories. So on the base level, we have the epics. We have the epics modify quote, create quote, and cancel quote. We will start with the create quote section, and we already have some items here which are already finished. You can see that on the state, they are accepted. So automobile, truck, camper, and trailer are already accepted. So what we want to do is we want to create a user story, and then later we want to test it and track the state of the test of that. So yeah, let's start with it. So let's open the create quote story. This is my epic. I'm working on that, and I just want to add a new user story. Okay, so I'm just on the wrong. So I'm just create for a motorcycle, like I said. So I do the usual stuff. So I'm the one that's the project. So I just write the story like I usually do as an insurance agent. I want to create quotes for motorcycles in order to sell insurance plans. So and so on. I don't want to finish that. That takes too much time. So I define the parent here. The parent is the create quote. Create quote apex, so I have a user story created here. So there are lots of things I can add here. I can add attachments here, everything that belongs to that user story. So once I create that story, the story is ready to being implemented. So let's have a look at it. So I have the create quote motorcycle story here. So once the create quote motorcycle story is ready and is being implemented, so let's say that developers have started working on it and set the state to complete it. Then the story is ready for being tested. But we, of course, use a testing tool. So we use our own tool in our development organization. So we need some information about that user story. And this is where kind of integration comes into play. So we have the same structure here. And when I refresh my view here in my testing tool, you will see that the create quote motorcycle story just pops up here. So that's the indication for the development organization, for the testing, for the tester in the development team, so I can now track the state of that user story. So I already prepared for my motorcycle a small test case, so just to have a look at it. This is just how a test case in Tosca looks like. This is an automated test case. It just fills in some forms, and in the end, it just verifies if the premium is at the correct value. We organize those test cases in so-called execution list. I just created a workbench execution list. Usually, I would add that execution list later to a bigger execution list for many test cases. Usually, I have more than one test case, but for this demo, this is quite okay. So we call the first test case straight through. This means this is the test case which covers a lot of functionality, so it's the most common case. So I close the application because it's part of the test case to start the application, and now we just start execution. First, we have to check out the execution list to make it editable, and then we just hit run. So what then happens is Tosca is opening our insurance calculator. It initializes the website and then creates a motorcycle quote for us, fills out all the forms. And so this is the result. So here is a result, here is a failure. So we see here that we can see here that the pricing in the pricing validation, there was an error. So we can see that the verification has failed here. So the expected value was 275 and the actual value was 285. So what we do here is we want to inform the developers that there is a defect. So we just go to our test case log and say we want to create a defect. So this is basically our defect section. This can be structured. Now it's flat here because it's better for you, and give it a nice name. Quote motorcycle miscalculation. It's a miscalculation, so really CI Agile Central needs a state here. What we also have, we have a schedule state which needs to be set for the CI Agile Central, which is the start of the story of that defect. I added a custom field here because I wanted to add some information. So I have a little helper function here which gathers information from my engine, from the execution, and which collects some information about the failure. This is not too much here at the moment. Usually there are verbose details here because this is a very simple case, and I don't have more information about that. So basically I can check this this defect, and we will see in Rally that this defect will show up. So let's track the defects here and see how that works. So this is the miscalculation quote. I can add any information. So here we don't have too much verbose information, so I apologize for that. We had to switch to Rally in a very short notice, so I was not able to finish that section. So this is how it works. So when a developer now finds that defect in submitted state, he can start working on that defect and fix that defect. In the end, he will end up in setting that state to completed, just to indicate that this has been fixed for now. So the schedule state is fixed. Sorry, that was what I was looking for. And we want to synchronize everything back to Tosca, which we have to refresh our view for, and the state has moved to done and the schedule state to completed. This means for the tester that he now can retest that issue. We of course can just cheat a little because I'm not able to fix that here in the application. I just want to fix that here. So this is a small story, so you can assume that when I rerun that test case now from my execution list, this will be green then, so I can just simulate that by setting the state to passed, and it would look exactly like that then. And this state can be synchronized back to the defect tracking tool as well if you like to. So there is a lot more to discover here in that area. What I want to just show you for the last couple of minutes here is how it actually works in the background. So you can see that this is this is entirely done in the background, so there is no user interaction needed, there is no manual synchronization task, and so it works really almost in real time. So just to show you what runs behind it and where the work is done, this is a very nice view here. So actually, this is my demo environment here. This is Tasktop Integration Hub. We white label this with the name Tosca Connect. And so these are all my integrations here. So I can run them here. I can see the status. I can track if something goes wrong here. So there is a pending item here, synchronized here. I can watch what's going on. But the nice thing is I can dig deeper. So you can see all my demos are also available on Jira. So it works very, very similar. So if we just have a look. This is the definition for how to integrate Tosca defects with CI Agile Central. So, and you can see here how nice it looks. You have a nice view here, and it's really very, very easy to work with that. So I can just see how fields are mapped here. This is a nice example. So we have an intermediate instance here. So we can say, for instance, Tosca defects have a name. We map them to the summary on the server. This is as an intermediate object on the server labeled summary, and the summary field is synchronized to the name field on the CI Agile Central defect. We have description, we have a severity. We don't map here. We can do that, but this is a little bit more transformation involved. I was not able to finish that, but this works quite nice. We can translate between different statuses. So this is really easy to work with. We can define conflict resolutions if changes are conflicting on both sides. We can decide if there is a master system or if there is an error that has to be raised. We can also define how to handle attachments here, because attachments can also be synchronized when attached to the models here. Another thing that is very nice from my point of view is there is a lot of pre-configuration involved. So basically, the server predefines certain artifacts which I can synchronize right away. So defects change sets even test cases and test cycles can be synchronized through predefined objects. So it's really very, very easy and very, very nice. So just as a demonstration, I can start a new integration just by selecting, sorry, this was the wrong one. I can just create a new synchronization by selecting a project. So I just select the CI Agile Central. Here, this is a demo instance I use. I just select one of my projects here. And I can give it a name, and I just okay, I just have to say that I want to create, let's say, user stories here, and I want to feature Epic on the server side. So if I save this, I just can, and these are automatically, mappings are automatically that some intelligent mechanism in the back who already pre-maps certain values. So I don't have to care about them. So they have been mapped. I just have to configure them. There is something the mechanism in the background couldn't solve, so I can say defined correlates with new. I just connect them. In progress is in progress here, completed is done, and I can say okay, accepted is somehow similar to it's finished. So I map this to done as well, and to do is in progress, and so on. And so I can easily define. And so everything you have to define goes in that convenient way. So I really love that solution, and I'm really happy that I can offer that for Tricentis as the default integration solution for all our customers. So this was my story about integrating a testing tool like Tosca with CI Agile Central. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask. I will try to answer everything. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Gernot and Tuuli. We do have a few questions. If we don't have time to answer all of them, we will certainly follow up right after the webinar. So a first question we have is, we have a development team at one location and an operations team at another location. There are two different teams. As we follow Agile with monthly iterations, where should we begin our DevOps journey? Should we combine the teams or work separately and then add integration?
So maybe I can answer that. So I'm not sure if I got everything right, but basically from an integration point of view, it doesn't matter if the teams are in one place or split over the world. So for instance, my team is in Vienna and I'm located on the US West Coast. We work together. So from integration, being a team doesn't necessarily mean to be in the same location. Those integration solutions all work via web services, so there is no location issue here as well. So I think starting the Agile journey is if you're really at the beginning, it's a cultural question. So it starts like any transformation in that area. It starts in the head, and so the integration solution is a technical challenge which doesn't where a location doesn't matter. So I hope this answers the question. If not, please just ask again.
Great, thank you. And then time for one last question, and it is, if I delete a story in Rally, will the Tosca requirement also get deleted?
So from an integration point of view, we never delete artifacts because in the past the experience shows us that it is convenient most of the time, but there are always things happening where data gets lost. So if you really want to delete an artifact, you have to do it manually in both systems. This is something we think is the better way. The experience shows this. So the answer is no in that case.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you all attendees. As I said at the beginning, you will receive a recording of this webinar tomorrow along with the slide deck. And thank you so much to Gernot and Tuuli for presenting this webinar today.
Thank you.
So thanks, everybody.